Scotty, when I think of Giants, Eagles, I do think of one guy. There's a few people I think of, but I thought about this guy. He was a 7-time Pro Bowl selection, 2 Super Bowl rings. He's got more accolades than I have hairs on my head, and I got a full head of hair. Let's go to the Barb's Harley-Davidson Sports Hotline and welcome into the locker room former Eagle and Giant, Sean Landeta. What's up, Sean?
Hey, guys. How you doing today?
All right, man. We're getting ready for Eagles-Giants.
Well, that's always a tough one for me. I'm probably the only guy that can honestly say I love both teams. I mean, they're such rivals and there's such disdain for each other, especially between the fans, that twice a year it's tough for me. But let's see what happens.
So that is a pretty interesting question. Obviously, you won 2 Super Bowl rings with the Giants, and you do a lot of work with their alumni. You're also on the fan up there in New York. But it must be tough for you. I guess your loyalties lie more with the Giants?
I wouldn't say that. I mean, because I played there longer, was fortunate enough to win 2 Super Bowls there, I do get thought of more as a Giant. But, my 5 years with the Eagles were great. I make my home in Bucks County, PA. I also have a place in New York, but, my wife's from Philly, and, I'm down there quite often. So, again, I wish they weren't such rivals, but they are. And, twice a year, it's always interesting what happens in those games.
Now, Sean, Scotty McKay and I, my co-host, we've been talking about the Eagles and the camaraderie with this team and the way they've been playing. Their leader, Carson Wentz, is having a down year. He's having one of the worst statistical seasons ever in his 5 years. But I want to ask you about, since you played on both teams, how much is chemistry a part of a football team?
I feel it's a big part of a football team. Obviously, when things are going good for anybody and anything, it's easy. Things are easy. But when they're not going good, that's where I think the chemistry comes in, where, to trust the people around you and to really believe things are going to get better and feel good about each other, is so important. You're going to have so many distractions from the outside. You're going to be attacked from the outside by the media, by the fans. And you inside that group, in that locker room, you have to stay together. And, listen, if the Eagles win this game Sunday, they're 4-4-1. I mean, no one wants to be 4-4-1, but it's not like they're 2-9. They still have a chance to have a terrific year. So Carson certainly hasn't played as well as he wanted to. But remember, this is a team thing. No disrespect to the players out there, but he hasn't had his best players around him to throw to or to protect for him. So sometimes that gets forgotten, and he probably tries to do a little too much because those guys aren't there. But, again, if they win Sunday, they're 4-4-1, and, they're in shape to have a pretty good season.
We're talking with Sean Landeta, former Eagle Giants punter. And, Sean, you've kicked the ball over 60,000 yards in your career. That's an incredible stat. But these games seem like they always come down to special teams. And they're not, these games are so close, these divisional rivalries. They always come down to one or two plays or, a bad call, something. We've got 4 plays that Giants fans will always remember. The miracle 1, 2, and 3, and then that 61-yard field goal a couple years back. But these are tough games. This is a rivalry.
No, it's been a terrific rivalry, and one of the reasons is because in the last 20 years, these teams, for the most part, have been relevant. Now, the Giants this is going to be, I think, 7 out of 8 losing seasons for them. But whenever they play the Eagles, for whatever reason, their record doesn't matter. I remember last year the Eagles had to go up there in week 17 and win a game to win the division. And the Giants, although their record was poor, they played them very strongly for 3 quarters. So, that's a common thing when rivals play each other. You see each other twice a year. And it's really turned into a great watch for football fans.
That's cool. Hey, Sean, it's Scotty. We got to meet a couple years ago over at the Citizens Bank Park, where you, Brian Propp, and Bill Berge were stealing the bases between, I think it was the 3rd or 4th inning. So we got to meet up there in the suite for a little while. But I was kind of interested. You started kicking when you were like 9 years old. What kind of made you decide to be a kicker? And was the NFL on your mind when you were a young kid? Like, we were always like, oh, I'm going to be Joe Montana. I'm going to be this. Was there anything in the NFL that made you want to say, I'm going to be an NFL kicker later in life?
Well, at that point, no. The reason I got started kicking was because I grew up in Baltimore, and the Baltimore Colts won Super Bowl V on a last-second field goal. So
Jim O'Brien.
Correct, Jim O'Brien. Me and every kid in Baltimore wanted to be him because he was the hero. He just won the Super Bowl. So when we would play our tackle football, every day after school, we would kick the football over the volleyball net, pretending we won the Super Bowl like him. And, it's just something that we did every year. And it's just something that for whatever reason, I could do well, and I continue to get better, and I like doing it. I mean, I never played football until I was a senior in high school. I totally got started by accident, but if Jim O'Brien doesn't make that kick, I never start kicking a football.
That's amazing. Hey, Sean, did you ever participate in punt, pass, or kick?
I didn't. I don't know why I didn't because, I grew pretty quick. I was almost 5'10", 160 pounds when I was 12, 13 years old. And just because I had grown quickly, kicking and throwing was something I could just do very well. And I'd love to go back and find a way to research what the winning figures were back then, because I really think I could have done well. Again, I think because physically I grew quick. Now I only grew a couple more inches, and, people went by me in high school and height and everything. But, I wish I would have done that because I think I would have done very well.
We're talking with Sean Landeta, former Eagles, Giants punter. Of course, you played with the Packers, Tampa Bay, the Los Angeles, St. Louis Rams, and you were also on the USFL Baltimore Stars. Did you play with Ken Dunek?
I did. I did play all 3 years with the Stars. It's interesting when they call us the Philadelphia Baltimore Stars. The only reason we went to Baltimore is because we lost our lease with Veterans Stadium. And that year in 1985, we all lived and practiced in Philadelphia. And we literally had 18 road games. I mean, our home games were a 4-hour bus ride. And, and on one hand, it was good for me because I was from Baltimore, so I got to see a lot of my friends on Sunday. But my 3 years in Philly here were wonderful. Played with Ken Dunek, so many other great players. And what a
Chuck Fusina.
Yeah, sure. Chuck was the runner-up to the Heisman Trophy at Penn State. And, Bart Oates and Sam Mills and Irv Eatman and Kelvin Bryant. And
wow.
Mike Johnson. Just, think about this. We had 6 or 7 guys after the USFL that went on to play 10 years in the NFL and all be all-star players. We also had 4 guys who became NFL head coaches. We had 4 guys that became NFL general managers. It's just amazing, the tree, if you will, from that one USFL team, what they were able to accomplish over the next 30 years in the NFL.
Yeah, we had Carl Peterson on not too long ago, former general manager of the Chiefs. And, of course, he was a part of the Stars. He said that, and Ken Dunek also espoused the same thing. He said that team could have competed in the NFL and won games.
Well, there certainly was a difference in talent. We would have been the closest thing to an NFL team. I don't know if we would have went 500, but I think we could have won a few games. And, certainly if we consolidated a couple USFL teams, which was the plan at the end. I mean, the 1986 season never happened, but there were 3 or 4 teams that were going to consolidate, and there's no question that a team like that absolutely could have went in and been a 500 team in the NFL.
Jeez. Hey, Sean, you've actually been, it's amazing when I was looking up some of your stuff. You're in the Towson Hall of Fame, where you played college, the NCAA D2 Hall of Fame, the Pennsylvania Sports Hall of Fame, the Loch Raven High School Hall of Fame, the Maryland Sports Hall of Fame. I think there's only one left. Is the NFL Hall of Fame in your future?
Well, I certainly hope so. Thank you for saying that. I've been on the ballot the last 8 years. I have not made it to, the final 15, but, I'd like to think that one day I'll have a chance. If you look at the body of work for the era it was in. I think you can make a great case for it. There's two problems. Number one is they only put 5 guys in every year, and there's about 25 or 30 guys waiting to get in. There's kind of a log jam. Then on top of that, they're almost never going to vote for a punter or a kicker in place of a quarterback, receiver, a linebacker, or a running back. So, they floated the idea of maybe having a specialist vote. I read somewhere where it wouldn't count towards the 5, because I think if you look at history, there's probably 7 or 8 guys that were punters, kickers, and returners and special teams players that do belong in there, but they're never going to get in before a quarterback, a running back, or a receiver. So maybe one day that'll happen, but I appreciate your guys' kind words.
All right, Sean, I'm going to start asking you a little bit about what you think your prediction. Well, give us your prediction on how you think this Eagles game will shake out tomorrow. Of course, turnover is going to be a big part of this game, but who do you see? How do you see this game shaking out?
Well, I expect it to be just like the game it was several weeks ago. I mean, the Giants surprised everybody coming in there with a poor record and, being up, I think, by 9 points late in the game, and give the Eagles credit. They came back to win by 1. I expect another close game just like it. Now, the Giants are greatly improved. I mean, they lost by 3 on the last play to the Cowboys. They lost by 1 to the Eagles. They had the Tampa Bay Bucks on the ropes. This is an improved team. I know their record is 2-7, but they've played real well. So, if the Eagles don't turn the ball over, I think they've got a chance. But they're facing a better team in their house, and I expect this to be a very tough game for the Eagles.
Oh, so it sounds like you're picking the Giants.
Well, I don't know if I'm picking the Giants, but, if they win, it wouldn't surprise me. I think the Eagles, especially when the season started, when you looked at the rosters, you'd say they had a better group of players because, remember the last 3 years, people may not realize this, but the worst team in the NFL the last 3 years has been the New York Giants. They have the poorest record. And, this year, again, they're 2-7. A lot of close losses. They are improved. The record doesn't show it, but this should be a heck of a game.
Well, listen, Sean, we really appreciate you taking time out to visit with us and talk a little bit about your career. We really appreciate having you on. Thanks so much.
Well, thanks for reaching out. Great speaking with you guys.
All right, there he is, Sean Landeta on the Barb's Harley Davidson Sports Hotline.